Hey everyone, my name's Mike Demaro, and I know that you probably heard on the news recently, and it's about they're shutting down PBS and the CPB, NPR, all that. And I just want to say that it's not a right decision for them to shut down the network because, there's a lot of people that grew up watching PBS. There's a lot of people that listen to NPR. It's an educational tool, and I'm thankful for them to have it as an educational tool because the thing is, there's a lot of stuff that we learned in school was thanks to the PBS specials that they had. And then and then even continuing on today, we learn from the PBS specials that they had. Like, there was like some specials like the Roosevelts when they had the special about how they had the special with Teddy Roosevelt, his cousin Franklin, and his wife Eleanor, which Eleanor is actually a niece of Theodore. So, you know, it is something because you get to learn stuff that maybe you don't get to learn in school. You still learn. And I feel that if you take away PBS, then they're not going to learn, you know? And it's just so sad to hear about the PBS and, you know, just so sad to hear about it. And it's just a difficult subject to talk about. And the Corporation of Public Broadcasting is planning on shutting down because of the funding, and that's not right. You know, it's just, it's going to be a sad time because, most of the TV today is commercialized. You have ads like crazy, no matter if you watch it on live TV or if you watch streaming or whatever else, you watch ads. And PBS does not do ads. It's just, you know. And here's an article from CBS News. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting said Friday it would begin winding down its operation after its funding was eliminated by the Trump administration in Congress. The CPB is a private nonprofit founded in 1967 that serves as a steward of funding for public media. It provides funds to 1,500 local radio stations, public radio stations, and television stations as well as PBS and NPR. It employs about 100 people. President Trump signed an executive order in May instructing the organization to cease federal funding for PBS and NPR. In June, the House approved a White House request to claw back 1.1 billion in already appointed federal funds from the CPB. The Senate Appropriations Committee 2026 appropriation bill eliminated funding for the CPB for the first time in over 50 years. Despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress to preserve federal funding for CPB, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations, said CPB President and CEO Patricia Harrison in a statement. CPB remains committed to fulfilling its fiduciary responsibilities and supporting our partners through this transition with transparency and care. The organization said in a statement it told employees that a majority of staff positions will conclude when the fiscal year ends on September 30th, 2025. The CPB did not say exactly how many positions that was. A small transition team will remain through January 2026 to ensure a responsible and orderly closeout of operations, the organization said. Mr. Trump also fired three members of the CPB five-person board in April. In response, the CPB sued, arguing the president was exceeding his authority, but that case was dropped on Friday. Both PBS and NPR, the most high-profile public media organizations, have long been the target of Republican criticism and have been preparing for the possibility of cuts since Mr. Trump's reelection. The broadcasters receive roughly $500 million in public funding through the CPB. In March, PBS CEO Paula Krager and NPR President and CEO Catherine Mahar defended their organizations from accusations of bias in testimony before a House subcommittee. Mahar warned that defunding public radio poses a real risk to public safety of the country. She said some NPR stations receive more than 50% of their budget from federal funding and may face layoffs and station closures. Rural areas would feel the largest impacts, Mahar said. Local stations also provide vital alerts like emergencies, like storms, floods, and fires. Public media, public radio, public television are all a crucial part of the emergency response plans for nearly half of the states in this nation, Mahar said in an interview with CBS News on July 17th. If these types of emergency alerting go away, you will have fewer outlets to be able to respond in real time to future natural disasters. So, I mean, there you go. And I feel bad for the people at PBS and the Corporation of Public Broadcasting and NPR. You know, I had the chance to attend the Smithsonian's National Education Summit back in July. And I can tell you that it was an honor for me to go. And I had the chance to see some of the work that is being done for the 250th anniversary of the country, and the Revolutionary War and all that. And I can tell you that if it isn't for PBS, then, these things, like the specials that they have that's going to be in our classrooms and everything else, they're not going to be there for the people that need it. You know, this is part of education. PBS educates the mind. When we're young kids, we had Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Magic School Bus, Reading Rainbow, Barney, those type of programs. And they helped us to learn about how we do numbers, we do the alphabet, colors, shapes. Our basic education needs are with that. And then as we got older, we learned about we could learn about the presidents, we could learn about the different states, we could learn about the things that happen in history, you know, through our social study classes, our history classes, our science classes, you know, because PBS was always there for us to learn. And without PBS, it's like it's going to be difficult for the teachers to use tools to help teach the kids. And then I know I'm not a student anymore. I went to college, I have a bachelor's degree, yes. But even 15 years later, I still watch PBS, because they have stuff that I might not want to watch on the other networks. PBS is a rare economy in this day and age, a rare thing to have. And without it, it's like you're forcing us to watch commercial TV and you're forcing us to learn through commercials and all that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I really enjoy watching PBS. Okay. There are specials I do watch on there. And they have sub channels like Create, World. Kids even have one, a sub channel, and they get to learn through that, and there's a lot of programs that you can learn from PBS. So, I mean, it's our turn now to get the ball going, tell our members of Congress while they're on their summer recess to let them know that you need to have PBS in our lives because without it, it's gonna create chaos in this world, and it feels sad that something like PBS could shut down and people don't give a damn about it. Sorry for my language, but at the same time, it's like we need to address this issue. And they need to have the funding so we could watch the programs or listen to it. I barely take a Uber or a Lyft to get around town, but I know that when I go to Washington D.C. or anywhere else that I might need to have a Lyft, you know, most of the time when I get in the car, the driver would play like NPR or public radio. And that was their choice to play that. And it helps them get through their day, you know? So, I mean, if we lose that outlet for people that depend on that type of service, you know? And it's like, not everyone wants to listen to commercial radio either. Not everybody wants to listen to satellite radio. I have satellite radio, yes, but same time, no. There are people that don't want to listen to that. They just want to listen to good entertainment radio that can stimulate their minds, get their minds thinking, you know? And, some of the radio stations that they have also, they have classical music. And I can tell you that these are type of songs that you would listen to at like airports and all that. And it helps you calm down, helps the travelers calm down, right? And that's the effect that we have when we listen to public radio. Because the thing is, if you listen to public radio, it's something that you can't find anywhere else. You know? Yes, they have their news. Yes, they have their weather. They may even have traffic. Sports, I don't know. But, you know, but they keep the listener informed. You know? And PBS does the same thing when it comes to TV. You know, there are also programs on PBS that are exclusive to PBS that you will not find anywhere else. For example, on WGBY, which is now New England Public Media, you have a show that was originally on WWLP 22. And that show was at schools Matt Schwitz. And it got sent from the NBC affiliate 22 News over to WGBY because of issues with the station and all that. And it was a good home for it because that way people get to learn and they get to see bright students, high school students from the Western Mass area compete on a show like that. Now, my episodes back in 2002, they were aired on 22. They were not aired on 57. And we're talking about how the show went from 22 to 57. You know? And that's one of the longest run quiz programs in the world at School's Matt's Wits. And then there's also another game show like that, or quiz show, in Eastern Mass in New Hampshire. And I don't know what that's called, but they have a show like that. And then you have other shows, Connecting Point, which is on 57. And then you have other shows that are exclusive to that PBS station. Like, so I think Maryland has a program where they talk about stuff that goes on in Maryland and they share and profile those nonprofit organizations and all that. Hawaii does that. North Carolina, I believe, has a show like that. You know, you just have to look into your local PBS station because they will have that type of program. And I feel that, you know, you take away PBS, you take away what's special. You take away those local produced programs. You know, and some of the people that work on those channels, they're actually college students interning in that in the entertainment industry and all that. You know, WUFT, Channel 5, Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, has a news broadcast on their PBS station, and it's for the news in Gainesville, Florida, with the students being the anchors and reporters and trying to get the news out there to the people. You know, without the benefits and the federal funding, you won't have programs like that. You know, it's just, I'm trying to give you examples, and, you know, it's something that we need to take care of, and hopefully people will respond to my video here, share my video, and hopefully if you're listening to this on my podcast, hopefully you can share my podcast too, because it's something that we need to save. We need to save PBS. And I know PBS asks us for contributions, and they are tax deductible. So, you know I don't have a lot of money on me, but if I did, I would give them some money because they provide excellent programming. You know, I know that some of the programming I might not be interested in, but there are programs out there that my niece might be available to watch, or my future children might want to watch. You know, and if we take away all those funding for that, then they won't be able to watch great programs that are out there. You know, there are programs out there that, you know, you have Antiques Roadshow, you have, let's think, Masterpiece Theater, you have Nova. You you have programs that still teaches you, even though you might not be in school anymore and you might be an adult who's just relaxing for the night at home, watching TV, and you have programs that still educate you. Even if you're not in college, you have these programs. And, you know, they still get your mind going, your brain going. It makes you think. And over on NPR, you have Car Talk, which is an interesting program because you get to hear about how cars work. Maybe it'll help you repair your car, for example, that you might not know before. So I'm saying this, and I love PBS. I love NPR, and I want these two wonderful organizations saved. And I also want Corporation for Public Broadcasting to be saved as well. And I hope that you're willing to go to your member of Congress, especially during this time, this month, because they are on recess for the month of August. Go to your representative. Let them know that you want to save the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, to save PBS, to save NPR before it's too late. And because, if we don't save it, then this type of programming will be extinct and it will not benefit anyone, you know. So please make sure you go talk to your elected officials, let them know you need to save PBS and you need to save NPR and you need to save Corporation of Public Broadcasting. And I want to thank you for listening to my video and listening to my podcast. And I hope that together we can make a difference.